Hey, thanks for stopping by. Today's video we're going to be talking about 5 hidden gems inside my collection. Before we get into it, make sure you hit the subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, and make sure you're checking that notification bell so you know next time a video goes live. First up we have Dragon Farkle from Z-Man Games. In Dragon Farkle you play as one of these specific heroes. Each hero has their own asymmetrical ability to help them when they're battling the dragon and gaining their army. Also you are equipped with a magic item that will also help you build your army and help slay and defeat the dragon. Why do I like Dragon Farkle? Well, it's really simple. You roll the dice, you add the numbers, and those numbers build you up an army. Those soldiers go onto your player mat and you build and build and build until you have enough to go and fight the dragon. Sounds simple. However, there is one red dice that you always have to roll. If it's a blank side, happy days, you just keep on amassing an army. If you roll the 2 axes, you double the amount of troops. So if you were to earn 500, you gain 1,000. However, if you roll the dragon side of the dice, then the dragon comes along and eats that amount of your soldiers off of your board. When you finally battle the dragon, it works on the same principle. You roll your dice and you add up your scores. However, on the dice, if you roll a dragon or an axe this time, you cause the dragon a wound and you flip over one of the stones in front of it. However, if you don't and you roll a blank, the dragon eats the number of soldiers that you are battling with. However, if you can finally turn over the dragon's last wound, the dragon is then defeated and you have won the game. In Dragon Farkle, every roll is important. It adds to the tension of, will the dragon come and eat my troops? Can I get to the dragon's keep and slay the dragon this time? Do I have enough soldiers that I can just keep going and get that one extra roll I need to beat him and take his final health down and defeat him? That sort of tension I love in games. I suppose to understand what Dragon Farkle is, you have to sort of understand what Farkle is. Now Farkle is a dice game. Essentially you are rolling dice to score points. The more dice you score points, you take those dice out and you can roll again, and you take those dice out and you roll again. However, if the dice you roll are non-scoring numbers, you then Farkle. So it means all the scores that you had amassed, you lose them. Add in the component of a dragon eating the ones you've just scored, that gives you an extra layer that ordinary Farkle just does not have. The next game I want to talk about is Histrio. This is a 2 to 5 player game from Bombix Games where you are a bunch of animals doing a drama. The king is a fickle man. He changes his mind like the weather. Does he want a comedy? Does he want a tragedy? Who knows with him? And it is up to you as a director of a play to make sure that you give the king exactly what he wants. As you play cards to travel from village to village to village, putting on a show, you gain more performers. And the more performers you gain, you could gain comedy performers with an extra score and with a special ability that means you can put your director centre stage of the comedy that you're just performing. However, you could then, the king could change his mind and want a tragedy and you need performers, but as soon as you want a tragedy, your director is swept away and the tragedy will be performed. So you need to travel to a new location with a new ship and pick up more acts for your show, and there are special acts as well that give you extra benefits and extra perks, and then occasionally you'll get these which you'll need your play to have special scoring. So for example, the schemer, so you have to gain a point for every acrobat you have in your troupe, so you will now be looking out for acrobats and hiring them, and then each round the more actors come to the towns and you refill the spaces, and then you move your next ship in. You go around and more actors come and your troop becomes larger and larger in a hope that you can keep the king happy. If you enjoy theatre, I think this is a no-brainer of a game. The art style is amazing. The cute animals and creatures for the tragedy and the comedy and all the different types of animals that you get are amazing. The component quality, the plastic coins with the king's face either happy or sad on either side of them, which is your currency and how you can get points to win the game. The minis, the little director or the little airships that you have to use to fly in the various colours are fantastic. The well-built stage, so you can change from tragedy to comedy with the dial going around to the score to tell you. Component quality, amazing. Gameplay, really simple, really quick. Not enough people really talk about it. And yeah, definitely one to look out for, absolutely. And also we have Castellan. Castellan is a 1 to 2 player game. However, if you buy a second pack of it, it can be a 4-player game. I only have one copy, which is the 2-player game, but the 4-player, the other copies are available in either yellow and green players or red and blue players. So that means you can play up to that. In Castellan, you either play as blue or you play as red or yellow and green if you have those other packs. Now, what you do here is you draw 2 cards, and your cards will have different sections of a castle. So you might have your turrets and your long walls or short walls. You may have a short wall and drawing up another card, that kind of thing. So all your cards have slightly different things on them, and they're the pieces you draw. Now in the game is essentially just a big box of plastic pieces to build a castle. And what you're then doing with this is you're building your castle to try and essentially make squares. And once you've built a square and you've fully surrounded, you can put one of your turrets inside the castle. This is how you score points at the end of the game, depending on the amount of walls surrounding the castles, that kind of thing. This game's really interesting because it is very abstract strategy in that respect, whereas you're playing your castles and you think, do I put a third wall in? But your opponent will just take that third wall. So it's very interesting where you place your walls and to gain your points in the best possible way you can. Really like the interest of that, and I don't see this game really being played a huge amount or spoken about a huge amount. It is a big plastic toy, maybe. And essentially playing with younger gamers, you might find that they're just messing around with the castle, but hey ho, it's all learning, isn't it? Yeah, really interesting little game. Quite quick to get to the table. It is one of those games that starts off small and then just spreads. So like a Hive or a Bandido where you think, oh, this is a tiny, tiny box. I can just play this on this tiny table. You definitely can't. It spreads. The benefit of them locking together is if you need to slide it across the table, you can slide it across the table without it just falling apart like Bandido. If you need to move it across the table, you move in every single card to be like, I just want a bit more space. I know that's technically cheating, but never mind. But yeah, really, really well worthwhile game to have a look at. Yeah, check it out if you do get the chance. That is Castellan. So next on the list is a game that is complicated, to say the least. It's a game that potentially has come and gone on my list as the list for culling, but then something always keeps me wanting more. And that game is Orbis. Orbis is a 2 to 4 player tile laying game where you are creating your own universe with your own sort of gods, as it were. You'll start off with the game, you've drafted a god tile. So you're drafted one of these characters, Mr. Squidhead here, Zen Man, this little girl, tree woman, I'm a troll with an eye, I'm a cowboy god, I'm a lady, Hansy McPhee, and Joan. So you're handed a god tile, and each tile has their own conditions for bonus points at the end of the game. During the game, you are essentially buying tiles, Splendor-esque, I would say. You have 3 rows of tiles. Each one have a varying cost value to them, and you're buying tiles to put into your universe, to create your gods. So you have the different sort of planes of things here, and as you're drafting tiles, you're creating this this tableau in front of you. If you can't, one of the things that you have to do is you have to place the same colour touching one side of the tile. So if you have a yellow, there must be a yellow touching that. And if you can't legally place a tile, you flip it over and it becomes a wasteland. So you are getting negative points there for that aspect. To buy each tile, you need worshippers, because worshippers for your gods. So they are in coloured cubes, little coloured cubes, and they're the worshippers at cost. So when you take a tile, there'll be worshippers on there. That goes into your resources, and then you use that resources to buy more tiles to gain more workers. I say mean worshippers. To gain more worshippers to create a bigger tableau and to gain more points at the end of the game. And that's it. It's played over a few rounds. Each tile has different win conditions and different scoring conditions. And it's a really interesting little puzzle. It just doesn't come to the table as often as it should for me. But it also doesn't leave my collection, because when I do play it, I have a good time with it. And as I said, the art is gorgeous. It's a stunning, stunning looking game. So Orbis, if you get a chance to have a check, I definitely would think about that. A very, very interesting little game as well to play. Next up on my list of games would be a roll and write. This one's a little bit different to other roll and writes in its way. This is called Dungeon Academy. This is a dungeon crawling roll and write game where you are rolling dice and travelling through a dungeon trying to defeat monsters in a hope that you can get from one end of the dungeon and to escape out the other end of the dungeon. When rolling the dice, it's Boggle-esque. So you have your little dungeon here, this little cardboard dungeon. However, your dice are here inside. So you would put them in the dungeon, give them a good shake around, roll them, and they land into your dungeon. Now this matches the grid that you have on your score sheet. You will have a starting point, and you'll go collecting resources. So you might collect potions. You will fight monsters, whether you're fighting small monsters or large monsters. You get treasure as you're walking through different ways. And you score depending on what monsters you defeat and your points there. If you can't defeat a monster, you will lose health, you'll lose life. In each game, you have a starting hero, so you could be any of these sort of adorable Chibli characters. I think one of the reasons maybe this game isn't forefront in people's minds is because the art is so Chibli and so adorable that people might immediately think it's very much a children's game, and it's not. It's cutesy, it's cuddly, it's adorable. Yeah, the game is quite crunchy. It's quite nice. You are also dealt out a treasure card, so your treasure cards, and you can gain treasure cards as well throughout, giving you extra abilities while you're trying to get through the dungeon, trying to beat the monsters. A really interesting switch up on roll and writes. You're not just rolling, jotting down a number, or rolling and crossing off a resource list or something like that. You're actually actively trying to get through a maze, trying to get through a dungeon. You can't go back on yourself. That kind of thing, played over a few rounds. It's a really interesting version of a roll and write, and it's definitely one to look out for if you get a chance. That's Dungeon Academy, and definitely one that is worthwhile looking out for if you get a chance. I enjoy it. Again, hidden gem, doesn't always come to the table as often as some other roll and writes, as your sort of Three Sisters or your Rolling Realms or your Welcome Twos, that kind of thing. But definitely an interesting one, and it can be scaled down quite easily for little ones as well, for small gamers. So yeah, it's definitely worth a look, and that is Dungeon Academy. Thank you so much for joining me as we went through 5 games that are hidden gems inside my collection. If you have any hidden gems that are little known or you don't really see shouted about, shout about them below in the comments. It'd be great to hear and I'll try and get back to you. If you want to see more of these types of videos, let me know what kind of lists you want to see as well. Drop that down in the comments. Please remember to subscribe, click that like button if you want to see more videos, and hit notifications to make sure you're notified next time a video comes up. So thanks very much for watching. See you on the other side.